Good morning. Good morning, guys. Happy Sunday. Welcome. Good morning. For anyone that's here with me right now, we're going to start our practice today right in the easy seat, so cross-legged. So once you have everything you need and you start to settle in, you can find a comfortable seated position. And just settle in for a few minutes before we get started. Good morning. Welcome. We'll be getting started in just a few minutes. So those of you that are here, just find a nice, comfortable seated cross-legged position. Once you have everything you need for your practice this morning, you just start to settle in. Maybe even close the eyes. And just start to tap into your breath. Hopefully you feel everything nice and calm. I'm going to do that right along with you for a few moments. Taking just some slow, steady breaths, deep breaths. Give everyone another minute or two to join us. And then we'll officially get started with our Sunday morning yoga, our slow flow, our feel-good flow, hopefully. So for anyone who's just joining us now, welcome, good morning. My name is Erica. I'm going to be guiding you through your yoga flow this morning. You really don't need anything. I was going to say all you really need is yourself, an open mind, your breath, your body. But obviously if you have a mat, that's helpful. If not, you can just use your floor or a towel space. Always recommended that you have some water. This isn't intended to be too much of a workout, but hydration is always important. And even though I may not stop to take official breaks, you are welcome to do so at any point if you need to. If you need to grab some water or take a little break, you are welcome to do that. If you have some music you'd like to play, you're welcome to get that set up. I did link a Spotify playlist to my Facebook post this morning, but that's always completely optional. So if you'd like to put some music on, I encourage you to do that. For me, that's a really important part of my practice. But I know other people find it distracting, so it's totally up to you. Whatever resonates with you is exactly what you should do. So if you have your mat, you have your water, maybe a towel, that's all you really need. And we're going to get started in just a moment. We are going to start in easy seat, which is cross-legged, so just find a comfortable variation. And once you're there, once you're ready, once you've done your best to minimize or eliminate any distractions for the next 40, maybe 45 minutes from start to finish, then you can start to settle in and maybe close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. And just start to take some slow, steady, deep inhales and exhales. Nice deep breaths. We breathe all day, but it's typically shallow, so take some nice, slow, deep breaths here. Good. Probably the deepest breath you've taken all day, maybe all week, if you haven't taken another yoga class or anyone's told you to take a deep breath. Just taking a few slow, steady inhales and exhales before we start moving. If you're just joining in, my name is Erica. I'm going to be guiding you through your yoga flow this morning. I am your guide. I will offer poses and cues in those poses, but it is your practice. It is your body. so feel free to take it in any direction you want. If you're seasoned yogi and you're familiar with the practice and you know advancements, you're welcome to take them within the pose. I will offer modifications when available, and feel free to take those as well. Just make sure you're listening to your body and honoring it today. Not where it was last week, not where it might be tomorrow, but just today, right now, in this present moment. And that's kind of our theme for today. Really trying to stay present. So as you take a few more breaths here in Easy Seat before we start moving, I want you to think about that. Okay, trying to keep your mind in this space with you during your yoga practice. Especially now when there's so much talk about the past, the way things were before, and the future, kind of the uncertainty of how things are going to look moving forward. It's really hard to stay in the present moment. Working from home, schooling from home, there's constant distraction, so it's really, really important that we can just be present and focused on whatever it is we're working on. Okay, so take a few more breaths here, and just start to settle in through the nose and out through the nose. And let's just invite some very gentle movements to get started. So on your next full breath in, I want you to bring your shoulders up towards your ears as you inhale. Fill all the way up. And then on your exhale breath, roll them down your back nice and slowly. Let's do that one more time. Let's make this exhale nice and audible here. So on your inhale, filling all the way up as the shoulders come up all the way to the ears, filling up, holding for one moment at the top. And then open mouth, release, let that breath go. And then either with your hands on your knees, or if it resonates with you, hands to prayer heart center. Just want you to take a moment just to set an intention, whether it's for your practice, maybe it's for your day, maybe it's even for the week ahead. Just think about what you're creating energy for, maybe how you want to feel, maybe a goal that you're working on. And maybe just something that you're grateful for. And just take a moment to bring that into your heart and into your mind. Maybe it's just this idea of being present today. Body, mind, breath, everything. And then once you've set that intention or that goal, you can release the hands back down to the knees, palms facing down. Good, nice and tall through the spine. And let's start to take some gentle, slow neck rolls to the right. So dropping the right ear toward the right shoulder, making sure the shoulders are not lifted, dropping the head very slowly toward the back. Left ear comes around the left shoulder, chin into the chest, making sure these movements are gentle and slow, maybe even keeping the eyes closed. And continuing with that motion, I'm going to start my music here. Good. Maybe take one more full circle in this direction. I want you to stop and don't rush to get there when your right ear gets to your right shoulder. And just pause for a moment as you slowly draw the ear a little bit closer to the shoulder. Good. And then we're going to gently lift the chin and tilt it over the right shoulder. So my gaze is now off my right shoulder. My left hand's going to come to the outside of my right knee. My right palm is going to plant directly behind my sits bones like a second spine. And take a gentle twist. So gaze whether the eyes are open or closed or off that right shoulder. Using some gentle pressure with that left hand on your right knee. Just to get a little bit deeper into this twist. Each time you exhale, make sure you're still breathing. Take one more breath here. And then very slowly start to untwist. And then hands are just going to come out in front of you, and very gently with a straight spine, flat back, leading with your heart, just walking the fingertips forward, taking a gentle fold here. Making sure that your face is relaxed, making sure that you're not holding any tension in your neck, so you're not straining it up or down. It's just kind of neutral. Gazes toward the floor off the top of your mat. And just gently walk those fingertips forward into a nice gentle fold. Good. And as slowly as you got there, start to walk the fingertips back in toward the body. Top body lifts. And let's just switch the cross of your legs. So we tend to cross with one leg in front all the time. That's kind of our natural way to do it. Just put the opposite leg out in front. Might feel a little bit different. Take a moment to settle back in. Good. Find your center, find your breath. And then you can start with those slow neck rolls to the opposite side now. So we're going toward the left this time. Again, eyes can be closed. Sometimes circulating with the eyes open might make you dizzy. So keep the eyes closed. And keep this movement really slow and steady. Just starting to warm things up, wake things up. I know for me, I hold a lot of tension and stress in my neck. So it's always nice to give it a little love, a little movement. Good. Let's take one more full circle from wherever you are. And the next time that left ear gets to that left shoulder, take that nice pause. Good. Slowly lower the ear toward the shoulder. Make sure the shoulders aren't lifting up. We want them nice and relaxed. Good. Feel a nice stretch along the right side of your neck, maybe even into your trap here. Good. And then we're going to bring that gaze, turning the chin off of that left shoulder. Good. And then we're going to take a nice little twist here by bringing the right hand to the outside of the left knee. Left hand plants behind my sits bones. Nice tall chest, like a second spine. Your left arm is behind you. And the gaze is off your left shoulder. Good. Keep the breath slow and steady. And think about twisting from the core. Make sure your sits bones aren't lifting off of the mat. Make sure that right knee is not lifting up. Good. One more breath. Good. Gently releasing out of the twist, coming back center, hands out in front of you. And again, a very slow walk as we fold with a straight spine, leading with the heart, neutral head, neutral neck, relaxed face. Sits bones are connected to the earth. Good. See if you can walk it just a little bit further. And then very slowly walking the fingertips back in toward the body. We're going to release out of this cross leg and we're just going to roll over the knees, coming into a tabletop pose. So in tabletop, we are on all fours. We're on our hands and our knees. Neutral spine to start, neck in line with the spine. Good. Making sure that the wrists are directly under the shoulders. I'll give you a side view. And the knees are directly under the hips. Good. We're going to get into some spinal mobility here. We do this pretty much every class. We're going to move through some cat-cows. So on your next inhale breath, you're going to drop your belly. Gaze is going to lift. Toes might even tuck here. This is our cow pose. And on the exhale breath, we're going to untuck the toes and bring that big roundness into the spine, pushing through the palms as the gaze comes inward for that angry cat back. Inhale, tuck the toes, drop the belly, lift the gaze. Really think about lifting the hips and dropping that belly. Good. Exhale, untuck the toes, round the spine, gaze comes inward. Then move through one more round of this at your own pace, linking your breath to your movements. It's one of our goals in yoga. Making sure our movement and our breath are consistent and are working together. And once you've finished that next round of cat-cow, we'll meet in a neutral spine tabletop. Another move we do quite often, we're going to thread the needle here. So getting into the shoulder a little bit. So on your next inhale breath, right arm's going to lift high to the sky, gaze will follow. And on your exhale, you're going to thread the needle by bringing that right hand between the left hand and the left knee, coming onto the right shoulder, onto your right cheek. Toes are untucked here, keeping your sits bones high away from your heels. And maybe even walking the left fingertips to the top left corner of your mat. Another great pose to keep the eyes closed if you are comfortable in doing so. Good. And putting just a little bit of weight on this right shoulder here. Good. Make sure you're still breathing. One final breath. Good. If you walk the left fingertips forward, planting the palm underneath the left shoulder, pressing through it, lifting that right arm back up high to the sky, and we're keeping it there. Okay, we're going to come into a modified side plank. So left hand is planted center, Left toes might come out to the side a little bit like a kickstand. And we're going to stack hips and stack shoulders, bringing that right foot straight out long behind you. I'll give you a side view here. Good. So you're in this modified side plank here. Toes are connected, hand is connected. And maybe even dropping the right bicep over the right ear, feeling a nice stretch all the way from those right fingertips to those right toes. Good. Good. And let's gently release out of this modified side plank, coming back to our neutral tabletop. Good. Let's get a little movement. So let's drop the hips over to the right, rolling to the outside edge of the right foot and bringing the gaze off that left shoulder, hovering those right hips. Or your right hip, I guess there's only one, right? Coming back through center, dropping the left hip, now coming to the outside of the left foot, gaze comes off of the right shoulder. Good. Let's move through that one more time, maybe a little bit quicker, dropping the right hips, gaze off the left shoulder. And then coming through center, dropping that left hip outside of the left foot, connects to the mat, gaze is off my right shoulder. And then coming back center so we can get into our second side here. So on your next inhale breath, left arm comes up high to the sky, gaze will follow. And then on your exhale breath, you're going to thread the needle, left hand between right hand and right leg, coming down onto the left shoulder, onto the left cheek. Again, toes are untucked, sits bones are high away from the heels. And maybe you walk those right fingertips a little bit forward to the top corner of your mat. And again, just putting some gentle pressure, letting your weight do the work and opening this left shoulder. Let's take one more full breath here. Good, nice, slow, steady, deep inhales and exhales through our entire practice. Walking those right fingertips back in under the right shoulder, pressing through that palm to lift back up. Left arm comes high to the sky and it stays. Preparing for our modified side plank now on the second side. Maybe those right toes come a little bit out to the side. As you stack your hips and your shoulders, left toe to the ground, connected, left arm up high to the sky. Good. And maybe dropping that left bicep over the ear. So once more, you feel that really nice long line of energy from your left fingertips all the way to your left toes. Good. Gently releasing out of this modified side plank back into our tabletop. And I want you to tuck your toes here. And I want you to lift your knees just an inch or two off of the mat and feel your core start to engage. Good, maybe even dropping the sits bones closer to the heels, getting a nice stretch along the ankle, the arch of the foot, your Achilles. Good, and then preparing for our first downward facing dog, we're gonna lift the hips up high to the sky as we melt the heels closer to the earth. Okay, so we're in this big upside down V position. Fingertips are nice and spread. Feet are about hips width distance apart. And what I'm really thinking about here is lifting my hips up high to the sky as I ground my heels closer to the earth. My head is in line with my spine, and I'm melting my chest back toward my thighs. Should be even weight in the hands and in the feet. Good, let's just settle in here for a moment. Maybe gently shaking the head yes or no. Maybe pedaling out the feet, getting a nice little calf stretch here. Taking whatever movements you need before we move. And let's very slowly walk our feet up to meet our hands at the top of our mat, nice and slow. Meeting in Uttanasana, our forward fold. Make sure you can see me good. So letting the head hang nice and heavy here. I say get rid of the wrinkles in the back of your neck a lot because I don't want you craning up to look at anything. Okay, listen for my cues and let your head hang heavy. Your gaze should actually be at or maybe even through the legs. Okay, letting the arms hang heavy, letting gravity do the work here to open up the back of the body. Thinking about elongating once more from the hips all the way to the heels. Micro bend in the knees is perfectly fine here. Just listen to your body. Don't force anything. You should feel a nice stretch, but nothing should hurt. Okay. And let's prepare to take a halfway lift. So on our next inhale breath, you're going to come to a flat back. Hands are going to come to your shins. Shine your heart. And on your exhale breath, fold a little bit deeper. Good. On our next inhale breath, once more, slow rise. Head will be the last thing to lift all the way up to stand. I'm just going to back up so you can see me. The arms are going to meet overhead. Good. Make sure you're grounded through all four corners of both feet. Let's take a nice little side body stretch here. Maybe even interlace your fingers. I like to release my pointer. And let's lean over toward the right, getting a nice side body stretch along the left side. Left rib cage, maybe even into the top of the left outer hip. Good, make sure you're still breathing. Good, using the core to come through center, and then just bringing it over to the left side. Good. Again, continue with your slow, steady breath. Nice side body stretch on the right side. We're going to release and come center, totally optional. If you have a back bend in your practice and you want to take a gentle back bend, push those hips forward as you bend into the back. And then your exhale breath, swan dive back down into your forward fold. So we should be in a forward fold at the top of our mat. We're going to plant the palms in front of the feet. And one foot at a time, we're going to step back to our high plank pose, which is just the top of a push-up. Good. And then slowly and with control, lower all the way to your belly. Untuck your toes. Palms are planted underneath the shoulders. And we're going to lift halfway for a low or a baby cobra. So getting a nice gentle back bend, lifting the palms up, keeping the arms nice and close to the body. Toes are still planted. One more breath. Good. Release out of your back bend. Tuck your toes. We're going to push up like a flat board right to our plank. And then hips lift high to the sky, downward facing dog. Good. We're going to move through that same series of movements. It's called Sun Salutation A. We're just going to do it a little bit quicker now. Start to build a little bit of heat in the body. So again, taking a slow walk to the top of your mat, we meet in our forward fold. We're also going to really think about linking our breath. So listen carefully. On your next inhale breath, lift halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale brings us all the way up for our upward salute. Good. Exhale, we're going to swan dive and fold it back down. Plant the palms in front of you. Step back to your high plank pose. And again, slow and controlled, we lower all the way to our bellies. Untuck the toes, maybe even separate the feet, mats with distance. Option here to take that low baby cobra again, or if you're open through the back and you want to press through the palms, you can straighten the arms into our high cobra. Good, thinking about pressing the hip points into the earth, maybe even dropping the head slightly. If this is too much, you can take that low cobra option. Whatever option you are in, we are here for one more full breath. And then gently releasing out of your back bend. Bringing the feet back in, hips width distance, tucking the toes. Pressing through the palms like a straight board up to plank. Hips lift for downward facing dog. Good, getting ready to move through our standing poses, our one standing sequence. We're going to come into a three-legged dog, and you have some options here. So take it where your body will allow comfortably. Okay, we're going to lift the right leg for a three-legged dog, and that could just be simply lifting the toes off of the earth, maybe hip height. If it's available and comfortable, maybe even coming a little bit higher. Okay, if you don't feel comfortable on one foot, then just stay in your traditional down dog. For those who are lifted, maybe even bringing a bend into the hip, maybe shaking the leg out a little bit. Good. Whatever variation you are in, making sure our hips are squared back forward. We're going to bring the knee in toward the nose. Hover for just a moment. And then even if it takes you a couple tries to get there, we're going to get that right foot between the hands into our low lunge. So I just want to take a moment to set this up because this is the foundation of so many of our poses. I'm high on my left toes. Okay, nice goal here is to have that 90-degree bend in the front leg. You'll feel a nice stretch along the opposite hip flexor. My right foot is fully planted and grounded here. Now you can come to peace fingers if you need help with the balance, or you can even really engage the core and the inner thighs to help with the balance and hover the hands. If you have blocks or books or toys or bottles, whatever it is, it's a great position for some blocks here just to bring the earth a little bit closer to you. Okay, one more breath. We'll get a little relief. We'll drop that left knee. Arms come straight up overhead. We're in a modified lunge. Good. Spiral those pinkies inward and relax the shoulders away from the ears, making sure your hip and chest points are facing straight forward. Good. If your back toes are tucked, to untuck them. And we're going to interlace the hands and bring the palms to the top of the right knee and gently sink in forward into our crescent lunge. It's Anjaneyasana in Sanskrit, our crescent lunge. And you should feel a nice stretch right here along this left hip flexor. Good. And you can keep the hands here if that's comfortable for you. There are so many arm variations. I'll offer you if you don't feel like you have to move through them all. Maybe you just stay right here. If you're looking for a nice chest stretch or some heart opening, you can even bring the hands to cactus like goalposts. If you want to take this one step further, maybe even interlace the hands, the low back, get a nice chest and shoulder stretch while you're sinking into this hip stretch. Find a variation that works for you. We're going to be here for one more full breath. Wherever the hands are, let's bring them to frame out the right foot. And we're going to straighten that right leg. So bring a flex into the right foot. You might need to adjust it slightly. Make sure your left hip is still high away from the heel. Okay, now here that left foot can be tucked or untucked, whatever serves you better. Okay, and then once you're set up in your half runner stretch or your half lunge, start to fold. So start to bring the chest a little bit closer to the leg. And you should feel a nice stretch along the back of the right leg, your hamstring here. Good, and again, make sure you're not craning your neck. Make sure your face is relaxed. Breath is slow and steady. You maybe even windshield wipering that right foot just to see how it hits the hamstring slightly differently. Good, and settle in here for 2 more full breaths. This is our half split here. Good. Taking the final breath here. And then we're going to bring the sole of the right foot back to the earth. And we're going to tuck the left toes coming back into that low lunge where we started just as a transition. And that left foot's going to plant on a 45. So my toes are facing the top left corner of my mat. Might need to bump them up a little bit. And I'm going to straighten that right leg and fold. So this is our pyramid pose. So right now my right toes are facing forward. My left toes are facing the top left corner of my mat. And my top body's hanging heavy. Okay, one of the things that happens a lot in this pose is our hips start to open and we want to keep them square. So together on your next inhale breath, let's lift halfway. Maybe even bring your hands to your hips. Really plug that right hip back as the left hip rolls forward so you're directly square to the front. And then on your next exhale breath, fold over that right leg once more. Taking 2 slow, steady, full inhales and exhales here. Another great pose if you have blocks or anything that could serve as blocks, just to help with the alignment. Okay, if that's too far of a reach, it'll just bring you a little bit further up. Okay. And then we're going to turn both feet so our toes are now facing the side wall, and we're going to walk till we find ourselves in this wide-legged forward fold. This is our Prasarita. Now we're not going to be here for long, so just take a moment and let the head hang heavy. Good. Adjusting the feet as needed. They should be nice and wide here, about the length of one leg, but feel free to take it further. Just make sure the feet are fully planted. Good. And then we're going to take a very slow roll up to stand. Do it slowly. Head will be the last thing to lift. We don't want to get dizzy. So now we're standing with this wide leg variation. Okay, we have a couple options here. I want to start by coming into a ninja lunge, what we call Skandasana. We were here, I believe, last week, if not maybe the week before. So I want you to make sure that this right foot is fully planted, toes are facing maybe slightly out, but pretty much forward. Bring a bend into that right leg. Seat's going to come to the back and sink into this lunge here. Hands can stay at the hips. I like to bring them even to prayer heart center. I use my elbow to kind of nudge this right knee open. Left foot is still fully planted. If it's not, adjust your stance. Good. Feel a nice stretch along that inner left thigh. Chest is still tall. And then very slowly, I'm going to straighten out the right leg. Then I'm going to take my lunge toward the back now. So again, this time my left elbow's toward my left knee, gently guiding it open. Seat is pushing toward the back, chest is still tall. The stretch now is along the right side of my inner thigh. Good. Final breath here. Good, let's fold back center into our Prasarita, our wide-legged forward fold. And then we're going to turn the toes to face back forward. Both palms are going to stay to the inside of that right foot. And I'm going to heel toe my right foot the outer distance of my mat. So this is similar to our low lunge, except both hands are the inside, right foot is all the way to the side of my mat. This is our lizard lunge. I want you to just take a couple of gentle rocks back and forth off those left toes. Then you can stay here if you want to join me in one final variation in our standing sequence. We're going to take a nice little twist so the left palm will stay planted. And that right arm's going to peel up high to the sky, just taking a nice gentle twist from the core. And for me, it changes a little bit. I feel this stretch along my left hip flexor a little bit more intensely. Good. If you took the twist, bringing that right palm back inside of the right foot, and we're going to press through the palms and step back to our downward facing dog. Good, maybe take a few movements here, pedal the feet, shake the head, melt the chest back, just to come back to neutral. And then we're going to get into our second side. So even though you know where we're going this time, again, be present, stay in the moment, don't think about what's coming next. Focus on the current stretch, listen to the cues. Okay, so left leg coming into our three-legged dog. And again, that could be a couple inches in the middle or all the way up if that's available. Try to mirror what you did on the first side, even though we are not symmetrical. If you took that bend in the left knee to open up the hip, or maybe move the leg around, come into that now. Good, wherever you are, square off the hips. Left knee comes into the nose with that angry cat back. And then it steps through the hands coming into our low lunge. Taking a moment to get set up here with good alignment. We're high on the right toes. Left foot is fully connected to the earth. Nice deep bend, hoping to get that 90-degree angle on the left leg. Again, peace fingers are good to help with the balance. Or blocks, books, water bottles, whatever you have close by, maybe dumbbells even. Or maybe you hover here, but just make sure you're not resting the top body, right? We want the core nice and engaged, and really engaging the inner thighs will help with your balance here. We're only here for one more breath. We'll get some relief. Good. And then gently dropping that right knee. Good. Arms come overhead. We're in our modified high lunge. Shoulders away from the ears, pinkies spiraled in. Good. Making sure we're square to the front of the room. If those back toes are tucked, untuck them so the top of the foot is connected to the mat. Interlacing the hands, bringing them to the top of the knee, really where the thigh is, and gently sinking into our crescent lunge. So feeling the stretch right here now along the right hip flexor. Good. Make sure you're breathing slowly and steadily. Okay, if at any point your mind starts to wander, come back to the breath. Think about how you feel, making sure you're getting a nice stretch, but you're not in any pain. And knowing you can change the arm variation, you can keep it here if that serves you. Again, if you want to open the heart a little bit, get a nice chest stretch along the front of the body. Cactus is a great option. The deepest variation would be to interlace the palms at the low back, really draw them down, really shine the heart. Whatever variation you're in, you're going to take one more full breath. Good. Then releasing your hand variation so the hands frame out the left foot, keeping the right hip away from the right heel, straightening out the left leg. Good. Squaring the top body over the leg. and gently folding, bringing the chest closer to the leg. Again, right toes, I prefer mine untucked. A lot of people like them tucked to help with the balance here. There's no true right or wrong. Just pick whichever variation serves you better. And really think about lowering that top body gently to meet the left leg. Making sure the face is relaxed and the breath is slow and steady. If you did so on the first side, maybe just shimmying that left foot side to side. You'll feel it slightly differently in the hamstring, which is the back of your top portion of your leg. 2 more breaths here in our half runner stretch. Good. And then preparing to come out of this, we're going to plant the left foot to connect back to the mat, tucking the back toes if they aren't already, and lifting back into our low lunge just as a transition. And then we're going to drop that right foot on a 45, so my toes are pretty much facing the top right corner. They're not forward, they're not to the side. It's kind of an in-between, a 45-degree angle. And then straightening your left leg as the top body melts. Okay, maybe bumping up that back foot if you need to help with alignment. But another pose where we want to let gravity do the work here, just letting the top body hang heavy. Good, all together on our next inhale, we're going to take that halfway lift. Really important in this pose because we like to make sure our hips are square. They really want to open in this pose. So again, plugging the left hip back, rolling the right hip forward so my shoulders, chest, hips are square to the front. And on my next exhale breath, leading with the heart, folding back over that left leg into your pyramid pose. Good, one more full inhale. And exhale. Good, and then we're going to turn the toes and walk the fingertips into our wide leg forward fold, our Prasarita, now facing the opposite side of the room. And starting by taking a moment just to hang heavy here. We're not here super long in this variation, just take one more breath. And then very slowly with control, again, head will be the last thing to lift, maybe even bringing your hands to your hips, taking that slow roll all the way up to stand. Okay, now you have a couple options here. You can take that same slow Skandasana, that ninja lunge side to side and hold it. Or if you want to get a little bit more movement here, you can even take that slowly, still slowly and gently side to side though, more of like a moving meditation. More like an active recovery type of stretch. Okay, so you can gently come side to side. Both feet are fully connected. My butt is pushing out, but my chest is still tall. Sinking in, or you have the option to hold one side and then the other if you want to take a slower, more restorative variation of this pose. Okay, whatever you're doing, start to think about evening out from side to side. So if you need to switch, make that switch. If you're moving, try to end on the opposite leg from the one you started on. Good, preparing to come back center. Let's fold one more time just for a breath or two. Coming back into this wide-legged forward fold. And then slowly walking the toes, turning the toes, walking the fingertips toward the front. Both hands to the inside of that left leg as you heel toe that left foot to the outer edge of your mat. Okay, so I'm high on my right toes. Both palms are planted. And just take a couple gentle rocks back and forth off those right toes. Feeling how it changes the stretch in the hips. Getting a nice little foot and ankle mobility stretch. Good, and then you know you have the option to continue doing that. You can hold it perfectly still. If you want to take that final twist with me, that right hand's going to plant. Left hand's going to peel up high to the sky, stacking that left shoulder on top of my right. Chest is open toward the left side wall. Beautiful. Nice juicy twist. And then I'm going to release that twist by planting the palm back. Stepping back to my plank pose. Slip the hips one more time for downward facing dog. Good, coming forward to your plank. Now let's just drop the knees. Good, Good, maybe take a moment to shake everything out, stretch it out. This is our hero's pose. We're just going to use this as a transition. Maybe take a nice breath. Good, maybe take a sip of water if you need to after moving through our standing poses. And then whenever you're ready, we're going to meet in staff pose. So just bringing both legs straight out in front of you. Good, get comfortable on those sits bones. Maybe shake it out for a moment. Good, and we're going to come into some seated stretches. We're going to start to slow things down a little bit here. We are not done yet. We're going to come into some nice seated grounding poses here to kind of round out our practice. So let's start by coming into, it's called Janu Shirshasana in Sanskrit, but this is a pose you do quite often at the gym or just doing some regular stretches. So we're bringing this left leg out to the side. Now I'm going to bring a bend into my right leg so the sole of my right foot is along my inner left thigh. Good. And I'm going to square my top body over that left leg. Inhale, breath brings my arms overhead. And as I exhale, leading with my heart, I'm going to fold over that left leg. A lot of hamstring work today. This should be pretty open at this point. Okay, but don't worry about how far you can go. Just make sure you're not really rounding the back. You want a flat back. And the goal is to bring the chest closer to the leg. Okay, so maybe the hands come to the calf, the shins. Maybe you're pretty open and they can come to the bottom of the foot. Make sure your right hip's not lifting up. If it is, just back off of the forward fold. Good. Just keep the breath slow and steady here, keeping your focus on the present moment, on your breath, on this stretch. And you have the option to stay here if you want to get a little bit more into the side body. You can gently lift halfway, just start to stack the shoulders. And then that right arm will come over the right ear and you'll feel the stretch change along the right side body. Still getting a little bit of a hamstring stretch, but now the focus is more on the side body. Okay, so you can take that side body option or you can continue square over the leg with the hamstring option wherever you are. Let's take 2 more breaths. Good. Make them nice and deep and audible. Good. Whichever variation of this stretch you are in, bringing the top body up to neutral, and we're going to come into a pigeon pose from here. Another pose where you have lots of options. So you can start in the gentlest variation just by bringing a bend into that left leg. And you're here in what we would call a modified or a yin pigeon, feeling a nice opening in the hips, just making sure you're not leaning into this. You want the top body nice and square. Okay, feel this in the left hip, feel a little bit in the right hip. Okay, so you can stay here, or you can maybe even come to the forearms if that's available, or extend the hands all the way toward the front of the room. Okay, for those of you that have been with me or you've done some yoga, and you want to come into a full variation of pigeon, it's a very simple switch just by straightening this left leg behind you. Okay, toes are untucked, leg is straight. The goal is to have this front leg parallel at the top of your mat. That's really hard for most people. The heel comes a little closer into the body. If there's a big separation between your sits bone and the mat, you can shove a pillow, a blanket, a block, anything there just to kind of close that gap. And then knowing you can stay lifted, or you can lower to the forearms, or all the way forehead to the mat and walking the fingertips if that's comfortable for you, and just settle in here for a couple of breaths. Good. Hips are another area where people tend to hold a lot of tension, a lot of stress. So super important that you're breathing. Let that breath be your anchor. And in these longer holds, as your mind starts to wander, think about just connecting with your breath. Think about coming back to your intention or what it is that you're grateful for. And knowing that we're nearing the end of our practice, just really focusing on keeping your focus, everything on your body, on your breath for just a few more minutes today. Let's take 2 more final breaths here in whatever variation of pigeon you are in. Right foot should be nice and flexed here. Left toes are untucked if they're behind you. And then very gently, if you're lowered at all, coming back to the palms, walking them in toward the top body. Slowly releasing out of whatever variation of pigeon you are in to prepare to take that Janu Shirshasana on the opposite side. So slowly bringing the right leg out to the side, not directly to the side, not in front of you. Again, kind of on that 45, that in between. Bend into the left leg, sole the left foot to the inner right thigh, squaring the top body over the right leg. Inhale, arms overhead. Exhale, flat back, lead with your heart, fold. Good. Again, if that left hip starts to lift off of the earth, just backing off of the stretch. Good. Thinking about keeping the top body square over the leg. Nice flex in that right foot. Good. Taking some deep breaths here. Slowing down the heart rate. Coming back to the natural breath if you lost it at all as we were moving. If you're taking that side body stretch variation, you're just very gently lifting through the top body, stacking left shoulder on top of the right. Left arm's going to come over the left ear. And now you'll feel the stretch really along this left side body. A little bit still in the hamstring. Go ahead and settle in for a couple of breaths. So let's take one more full breath together. Good. Slowly releasing out of whatever variation you're in and preparing for your pigeon pose. So again, the easiest variation, well, for some people, everybody's different, is just bringing a bend into that right leg. This might be enough for you to sit right here. And if that's the case, just stay. Listen to your body, honor where it is. And knowing you have the options, though, to come to the forearms or to even lower further with this, double figure 4 variation. Or if you'd like to take a deeper expression of this pose, straightening that right leg out behind you, untucking those toes, flexing this left foot, trying to get as close to parallel to the top of your mat as you can. Mine's angled in a little bit slightly, and that's okay. Good. And then either staying lifted, don't rush it. If you're taking a deeper expression, just come slowly, maybe to forearms, or all the way. Walking the fingertips forward, forehead can come to the earth. Again, if you have a lot of space underneath that left hip and your mat, whatever you have close by, maybe a couch pillow, maybe a blanket. If you have a block, I like to shove my block right under there just to help with my hip alignment. Left foot is flex. Breath is slow and steady. Then settling into your pigeon for a couple of breaths. Staying present. It's hard when you know you're nearing the end of your practice and things are slower, especially for those of you I know who are used to working out at a faster pace. But really just give yourself permission to slow down. It's good for the mind, it's good for the body. So let's take your final breath here in pigeon. And then slowly coming out of it. We're going to bring the legs back around slowly, one at a time, to our staff pose where we started our seated stretches. Maybe take a moment just to shake it out. And then we're going to very slowly engage the core a little bit here, lower all the way to your back. I'm just going to turn so you have the full screen. Make sure you can see me. Good. Slow lower all the way to your back. Good. Just take a moment to settle in here. Take up whatever shape your body naturally comes into. Float the eyes to close. I like when I have the space at home, not in a studio, to have my arms nice and wide, my legs nice and wide, kind of like a starfish. Let my feet splay out to the sides. And just settle in here. If you'd like to turn off your music or turn it to a song specific for Shavasana, if you're on my playlist, that would be the next song, the last song. And just start to come back into your breath. Finding some relaxation. Our goal in yoga is to move our body. So when we come to this point in our practice, the goal, which is very challenging, is just to find a few moments of stillness. Stillness in the body, which hopefully leads to maybe not true stillness, but at least some calmness, some quiet in the mind. Good, maybe bringing a hand to the heart, a hand to the belly if that resonates with you. Feeling your heartbeat, acknowledging your work. Feeling your belly and your chest rise and fall as you inhale and exhale, connecting with your breath, your life force. I say this all the time, but something that you do all day, every day, just to maintain your life, but not something you give a lot of thought to. I'm going to take you just a few more moments here to settle in, to quiet everything down. Hopefully feeling grateful for your body, your breath, your yoga practice. Now, if you have time, if you have a day that will allow you to take a few more moments here, I would highly, highly encourage that. So if that's the case for you, you can just ignore me for the next few moments. But for the rest of us who are kind of over this or need to get about our day, okay, we're going to slowly start to invite some movement back into the body. Start by wiggling your fingers and your toes, maybe rolling out your wrists and your ankles. Let's take a nice full body stretch. So bringing the legs together to touch, pointing the toes, bringing the arms overhead. Good, and feel a nice long stretch, feeling nice and tall, all the way from the toes to the fingertips, sucking that belly in. Good. Good, still breathe. And then bringing the knees in toward the chest, giving yourself a nice little squeeze here. Hug those knees in nice and tight. And then we're going to drop both knees over to the right, coming into fetal pose. So curling up in a little ball on the side. And after Shavasana, which is corpse pose in yoga, we find our position of rebirth or renewal. Always a good time for a fresh start, especially on a Sunday, especially on a morning. Okay, so using the left hand for some support, gently guiding yourself up into a seated position. So coming full circle where we started, we'll meet back in Easy Seat Sukhasana, cross leg at the top of our mat. Palms can be up or down or heart space, whatever feels right. Okay, and just take a breath here. Let's take a nice deep breath collectively, everyone together. Let's take a nice deep inhale. Fill all the way up. Good. Open mouth, audible release. Thank you all so much for joining me this morning, for allowing me to be your guide. Thank yourself for taking this time out of your day. This idea of being present isn't just for yoga. Take this idea with you off of your mat. What lies before us and what lies behind us are small matters compared to what lies within us. Bring your hands to prayer heart center. I hope everyone has a great day, a great week. It's my pleasure guiding you. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste. Thank you all so much for joining me this morning. I hope everyone's feeling great. Enjoy the rest of the day. Enjoy your week ahead. I will see you same time, same place next Sunday or whenever you decide to hop on for your yoga. And feel free, guys, if anyone has any questions or requests, reach out. You can find me on Facebook, and I will see you all soon. Thanks, guys.